I have a love and hate relationship with this boat. The things that I appreciate about it are its simplicity, the simple conservative nature of the build, not a whole lot of complicated things to go on, and the fact that it's built like a tank. I put myself in situations you probably shouldn't do with a boat this small, but because it's built the way it is, none of this matters. It can take on all the water it wants, it'll never sink. It'll plow through waves like this, solid like a bigger boat because of all the foam strategically laid out inside of it. The one thing I can't stand is the way it fishes. So I'm gonna try and add a bunch of external upgrades to the boat. And let's see if that does anything. It could just be lipstick on a pig, or it could be the biggest defining moment to change this boat's trajectory in terms of its functionality. We're going to do this by adding a bunch of drop-in vertical storage. One or two will fix the gaps between the issues you have in reaching your gear, but enough of them will actually replace the need for more hatches. And that's what I'm hoping for, because I like this boat's layout. I just don't like its storage and the way it doesn't connect the dots when you need to find and get on the fish. You have seconds to get on these fish, and if you take minutes trying to reconfigure your storage, you'll miss opportunities like this. I could have made this boat however I wanted. Could have made it the most ridiculous 14-foot rig ever. But this boat is not for me. It was for the crowd. And the crowd wanted a bigger layout, more conservative and less complicated. And so that's what happened. Which worked, because this build is one of the most popular ones on my channel. But I personally can't stand it. Because at the level that I try to fish now, it's not just simply fishing anymore for relaxation and recreation. It's high-level degeneracy. It's no better than gambling or drug addiction, but I still need it all to function correctly. Thousands of dollars in gear and tackle. I need it to flow. Or it's just a giant waste of money. And knowing this, I had set to give this boat away because I need the new space for other boats, and I just like giving boats away to the crowd. We've given away 4 boats total. This one would have been the 5th. But this boat underwent serious rodent damage, and I just got that from sitting there. It incurred more damage than if I'd have just taken it out and used it. So now I'm kind of stuck with it. I can't really give it away. Like, all I want to hear about is how somebody gets it and then immediately sells it, and then somebody gets a hold of it and says, oh, look at the quality, and this is what TB Nation is like. We already have trolls trying to do that in the most petty and desperate way possible. So now I'm stuck with this boat that I really don't care for to use. What am I going to do with this thing? Well, the boat is really built solid. To undo anything that's built right now would be devastating to the entire build. It would just be pointless. I'd have to gut it again. I'm not going to do that. So I'm going to do the only thing I can do. Add more stuff in. I really didn't gain any wisdom or insight to do what I'm about to do to this boat until I did this 16-footer, which is also a conservative build requested by the public on how to restore and kind of revamp one of these old 1648 bass boats. We ended up giving this boat away to a few young gentlemen, primarily Ethan here, who had a lot of external upgrades he wanted to add into the boat, plus some external mods of my own. One of them is these through-hole brackets, which redirect all the water flow out in a modern way that's better than the old. And then, obviously, some upgrading to the trolling motor with a live scope turret, and the bigger thing is these vertical day boxes. Because this boat was conservative and had no storage and just a huge open layout, much like the Starcraft, we did the same thing here. But we attached all these vertical day boxes to the console, and this is a really good setup. It ended up kind of being right exactly where you needed it to be when you're up there in the bow kind of steering with the trolling motor, and you just reach back and grab your stuff. And this doesn't have a console like that boat did, but it does have a gigantic wide open cockpit. My favorite thing about these vertical day boxes and corner caddies and even the side caddies is that enough of them can replace the need to modify your boat at all. You could have a 3-bench seat john boat, and if you have like 5 or 6 of these things in that john boat, you don't need hatches. And if you've already built up your own tiny boat and you're like, man, I wish I would have just added one more hatch or added storage just one more place or added a day box in the front, or you just have bought like a boat, say from Bass Pro, like a tracker, and you just need a little more than what you got from the factory. These things, I tell you, 2 of them will change the dynamics significantly, but enough of them will actually replace the need for more hatches at all. All it takes is 4 screws, and anything from our 5 to 8-inch vertical day boxes to our corner and cup caddies, all of those boost the functionality of your boat significantly. What are the immediate, tried and true effective ways of upgrading any boat from simple to advanced is just upgrading the sonar. We also have a series of graph mounts, a lot of them, different ones, and then we have different add-ons like these cup holders, tool holders, and even a puck holder for the GPS right in the front. Again, the biggest testimony of this is just having that other basic 16-footer we built and then adding a bunch of sonar and an Ultrex onto it, and just the improved fishing quality just from those things alone kind of make it almost worth it for you to build your boat conservatively just to save the money to buy the graphs and the nicer trolling motor. And sometimes none of that is even needed. A lot of times I don't even turn the sonar on. I've fished long enough. I know what season it is, the water temp. I know where the fish are likely at because of the conditions and the climate and the wind. And you can just capitalize on it that way. At this point in time, the boat had very little sonar, and I had maybe one of my best winter runs ever. But no matter how good a fisherman you are, it gets tough sometimes. You can't predict anything, and you just go right by them, and you miss them inches and miles. And the sonar does hit the gap. I mean, just to find them. You still got to catch the fish after you find them. And that's something you realize very quickly with forward-facing sonar. But at least you can find them. But I would say if you had to choose between expensive graphs or an expensive trolling motor, you definitely would go for the trolling motor. You'll benefit in the long run, especially if you already understand your lakes and you already know where the fish are going to be. But it doesn't hurt to have both. In knowing this, I also moved to add those same things to this boat. Now, this boat was never built to have a scissor mount trolling motor, so that's going to be awkward. And the bow is fairly skinny, so sticking all that junk up there might get a little crowded. But it is peak striper and big fish season right now. And if I don't get something together to get on these fish, I'll miss it.
Dude, I'm getting destroyed. Oh, come on! No, it's just whenever they corral the shed. Like, it could be any time. Oh, that's your better one. That's like your biggest one. Oh! Yeah. Look at, he's all violent.
Stripper season officially begins around Thanksgiving down here. And they're fun. You know, you get to target schools of fish. It's exciting to kind of get on a school. It's an adrenaline rush to kind of keep on them. It's really good practice to track fish in deep water, and then there's also just cheap playouts like following the seagulls and the greaves everywhere. But because of the massive popularity of the striper fishing down here in Havasu, the boils have gotten smaller and smaller, and there's just not a whole lot of quality fish in striper. Where to catch a 15 or 20 pounder here is like catching a 30 or 40 pounder anywhere else. That's how rare it is to catch a double-digit striper, and you have to play by their rules or you will never find them. So I've developed and tailored my own method and even my own baits to target these fish, but it does involve having pretty advanced sonar and having a boat that will handle in very windy, nasty weather conditions. It is often unrewarding and your arm feels like it's going to fall off. Putting together expensive rod and reel combos that are rated for the salt, using baits that most people can't be convinced to throw despite how good they are. This technique is for the few, not the many.
Call them strippers because that's exactly what they do. They strip your line. Barely hooked.
I could sit here and conjure up a bunch of hoopla for the public on how it's all just skill, it doesn't matter about the boat. But the fact is, it truly does matter tremendously. It's literally seconds and minutes, inches and miles that separate you from a fish like this. And yeah, your bait might have caught the fish and your rod might have got it in, but your boat got you there and it kept you on them. And that's even more important. But still, in some way, seems to be the most underappreciated and thankless aspects in the whole spectrum of you being able to enjoy your time out there like this. But nonetheless, I hope this video gives you some perspective to show you how to turn an already good boat into a great boat. See you guys out there.